Ascension of Love, A Romance in the Chicago Tower, Part 2. After the intense and secret first months of their relationship, Isabella and Alexander thought that finally they could be together without hiding their love. However, the corporate world of Chicago, as imposing as its skyscrapers, had other plans for them. A love under scrutiny, the morning sun illuminated the imposing Te Torre Sterling, which rose on the Chicago horizon, reflecting the sun's rays on the glass and steel. On the 10th floor, Isabella was in front of her desk, feeling the pressure of the day that was beginning. The computer shone, but her mind was elsewhere. In her heart, Alexander's words still resonated from that night in which he confessed how much he loved her. Bah, it wasn't easy to hide their feelings, but the work they both shared had forced them to be discreet. The rumors about their relationship had spread like wildfire in the place of tea work, and although both tried to maintain appearances, the tension was palpable. Colleagues' eyes always turned towards them when they crossed, and the furtive smiles they shared, they served to fuel speculation. Unease soon made itself present. Alexander, from his position as CEO of Sterling Corp, had to make difficult decisions, and one of the biggest challenges was how to manage the relationship with Isabella without compromising their careers. During this morning's morning meeting, the situation became even more complicated. Her boss, Mr. Victor Hale, a man known for his cunning, began to ask veiled questions about Isabella's work. "Alexander, how is your new secretary's performance going?" asked Victor, in a piercing gaze. "Isabella, right? You must be more than satisfied with her work." Isabella felt her stomach churn, but maintained a professional attitude. "She is doing an excellent work," responded Alexander, but his eyes did not stop looking for Isabella, as if trying to send her a signal that everything would be all right. Victor smiled subtly, but his gaze was full of dark intentions. He didn't like the closeness between Isabella and Alexander, but he didn't have enough evidence to do anything about it. Even so, the pressure of the situation was evident. "Alexander, I knew that any misstep could endanger not only his career, but also both their lives." One step towards the forbidden that night, Isabella decided that she could not continue living Bajo the constant uncertainty. The tension between them had been increasing. Although the love between her and Alexander was palpable, the obstacles remained many. After a long day of work, Isabella invited him to her apartment, looking for a private place where they could talk without the pressure of curious eyes. "We need to talk," said Isabella upon entering the apartment. Alexander followed her. He continued, with a somber look. "I know. I've been thinking a lot about all this," he replied, running a hand through his hair, his tension evident. Isabella stopped in the middle of the hall. My heart was beating strongly in my chest. The situation was about to change. "I can't keep hiding us, Alexander. This is starting to affect us more than I thought," she said, her voice trembling. He approached her, taking her shoulders gently, as if he feared her delicacy would shatter into pieces. "I don't want to keep hiding either, Isabella. But we must be cautious. This love we share is more complicated than it seems, and if someone at the company discovers the truth, the consequences could be devastating." Isabella looked into his eyes, so intense and full less of passion, but also of worry. She knew she was risking everything, but the intensity of her love for him pushed her to take that step towards the forbidden. "What if we don't care? What if we fight? So what do we have?" she asked firmly. The silent threat. The next day, things took an unexpected turn. During an important meeting with investors, Mr. Hale seemed to have "it's a calculated move." While discussing a new expansion proposal, Victor looked at Alexander with an enigmatic smile. "It seems you've been very close to your new assistant lately," he said, in a soft but sharp tone. "Is all this part of your corporate strategy?" Isabella felt the air grow heavy, and her hands began to sweat. Although Alexander tried to maintain in composure, he knew that this comment was a sign that things were getting more complicated than he thought. "Victor, I am focused on business." "As always," responded Alexander, his voice firmly, but with a shadow of nervousness. However, Mr. Hale didn't seem convinced. "I hope you're not letting your personal relationships interfere with your work," commented Victor. Remember, his gaze slid towards Isabella, evaluating her coldly. Isabella felt the weight of his words as a silent threat. She knew that Mr. Hale had begun to suspect something, and I didn't want him to have the advantage. The dilemma of choice. That night, after an exhausting day, Alexander arrived at Isabella's apartment, with his mind completely overwhelmed by the situation. He had two paths before him: to continue fighting for his love and risk his career, or to cut everything off at the root and move on without her. I can't lose this, Isabella, he said, taking his no with a palpable desperation. I can't lose you, but I don't know how to balance all this without being destroyed. Isabella looked at him, her eyes reflecting a pain she couldn't hide. She was melted, trapped between her love for him and the reality of the consequences their relationship would bring. Perhaps there is no balance, Alexander. Perhaps we are destined to be a forbidden story, tu el ego que solo nosotros podemos entender. But in their hearts, both knew that they did not want to be just a hidden story. They wanted to be something more. They wanted a future together, without fear. The path to the truth, Alexander's decision was clear. He could not continue living in the shadows. He spoke with the board of directors and, bravely, revealed his relationship with Isabella. Although the repercussions were inevitable, the truth came to light, and with it, the employees' feelings were put to the test. Isabella, although scared, felt liberated. She would no longer have to hide what she felt for Alexander. And although the consequences of the scandal were difficult to face, their love remained stronger than adversity. In the end, they discovered that true love does not depend on the perfection, but of the willingness to fight for it, no matter the cost. Among the skyscrapers of Chicago, in the tower that once represented only work and ambition, Alexander and Isabella found Aaron his own place in the world, a place where love could flourish despite everything. End.